happy to have you here on another Somm class. I'm Berto Duque, founder of Somm Table. I'm with my co-host, Maria Carolina Llano. Hello, Maria.
Hello, Berto.
Somm Table has one mission in mind. It's to create a community inspired by passionate experts of wine, coffee, spirits, chocolates, and more, where people can get together and share their expertise and to share their great taste. Colombian coffee is often regarded as some of the highest quality coffee in the world. Colombia is traditionally grown Arabica beans, and its unique geography makes it perfectly suited for producing this delicious high quality brew. Juan Pablo Villota, who is with us today, our guest speaker today, he is taking full advantage of his ideal conditions to push Arabica beans to new heights, winning more awards than any other coffee grower in Colombia with his Café San Alberto brand. You might say that Juan has coffee running through his veins, really, because he has been born in a coffee growing family for 3 or 4 generations. He operates Hacienda San Alberto. It's perched in the steep ravines of the central Cordillera of Quinindyo state. San Alberto was founded when Villota's grandfather, Gustavo Leiva, he kind of defined the local customs and planted his own Arabica coffee trees, which were now at almost 6,000 feet above sea level. His father, Eduardo Villota, would continue the family legacy in planting more trees, more in that tradition, before finally Juan Pablo took over. He combines his father and grandfather's farming experience and knowledge. And he also studied in the international school, Toronto Rotman School of Management, where he developed further goals of growing his global brand, and with that, Arabica Catura, Arabica Castillo, and Arabica Geisha. So with that, I want to welcome our wonderful guest today, Juan Pablo Villota Leiva. Thank you.
So Bertie, how are you? Very happy to be with you today and to be able to share some details of Colombia as a grower country, and of course, about San Alberto, our family legacy and our coffee tradition. So before we start, Birdia and Carolina, I forgot to say hello. Let me explain a little bit about the origin. So the idea is that I have a brief, like some pictures to be able to, you have to authorize me, Birdi, for the screen sharing, please.
Of course, yeah.
So you can understand why Café Colombia is so unique and so important in the world. And that's mainly because of some very easy facts of the country. This is not going to be a very dense presentation, just some highlights of Colombia. So this is in reality why Café Colombia is so well known in the world. And that's mainly because of 4 facts. The first fact will be the type of coffee that we grow. In Colombia, we only grow the Arabica family. Remember, in the world, we have 2 of those. Arabica will be one, and Robusta will be the other one. Robusta is considered a low-quality coffee. Robusta is easy to grow, is resistant to many diseases, but the quality is bolder than the Arabica, and the industry is going to pay less money for the Robusta. On the other hand, you have the Arabica, very, very nice coffees, very elegant cups, more aromatical flavors. But in the plantation is a huge of threats, difficult with the weather, difficult with the diseases, and that's why the industry is going to pay better prices for the Arabica. And all the specialty coffees are coming from the Arabica family. Just remember that under the Arabica family, we have different varieties: Arabica Caturra, Arabica Castillo, Arabica Geisha, Arabica Pacamara, all those very similar to the wine business, different grapes, different profile. And that's like the new trend the world is coming, is not only asking from Café Colombia, but also like arriving to the final coffee variety that is going to mean something in flavors and aroma. Second reason why Café Colombia is so unique will be the social composition. We are actually many growers. At least 500,000 families are going to grow coffee in Colombia. That's a lot of Colombians involved. If you multiply those families times 4, that will be like the normal size of a Colombian family. That will give you that at least 2 millions are going to live at a farm working for the business. But the magic is not only the amount of families, the magical part will be the small size per family. A little bit less than 2 hectares will be the size average of the country. As you can imagine, with 2 hectares, you will not be able to make any business. It's so small that you will not able to make some stock and to be able to export it. And that's why we have a very strong coffee entity that is known as Federación Nacional de Cafeteros. That will be the National Coffee Growers Federation. All of us, all the growers are going to be members of those entities. And the entity is going to aid us. It's going to help us, and it's going to have 2 main responsibilities. The first responsibility is going to aid the small one, is aid the small grower, those families that without any help, without any support, they will not be able to resist the business. And the second objective is to build a reputation about Colombia as a great origin for coffee. In those 2 objectives, the federation has been very successful. Third fact of the country will be the diversity. We have many plantations. We grow coffee in 22 out of the 32 states that we grow. So from now on, for those that are following today, we will start asking from Café Colombia, but give me more information. At least you already know today that we are 500,000 growers located around 22 out of the 32 states that we have. So saying just Café Colombia from today on is not enough. You have to start saying Café Colombia from where? From Quindío, the region, from what town? Buenavista, and from what plantation? San Alberto. And that's very close to the wine business. And that's a good moment to tell you a little bit about our background. So San Alberto is run by 2 brothers, Gustavo and me. We are the 3rd generation of a family. We started the business back in 1972. It was my grandfather, the one who started the business. He was just a normal grower. He was just growing the coffee, being very focused detail on the volume. And then new generation are arriving to the business. And when my brother and I, we enter the business, we start saying, we have to be able to raise the bar of the business. We have to change the strategy. It's not just a matter of selling coffee. It's a matter of selling quality. It's a matter of selling a history. And that's very close related to the wine. We finish our studies in France and we get in love with the wine. So we start like discovering the Grand Cru, the Chateaus. So we're starting like following the trend and just seeing a consumer opening a bottle of wine, a good wine, and enjoying the wine with the aroma and enjoying the flavors and just like sharing the history of that chateau with their family and friends was like a huge surprise for us. So when we return to the country, we start saying, when we start running the plantation, we have to make something similar to the wines. And we start like building a jewel, and we start like building a concept of luxury, exclusivity, but of course supported by quality. And that's San Alberto like main inspiration is the wines and of course the whiskeys. And we are like a little bit close with their dreams is that we want to be able to share San Alberto at that same level of a nice single malt whiskey or a nice Grand Cru bottle of wines. Fourth and last tag of Colombia will be the picking. We only make hand picking in the country. The reasons of that will be just the topography. We only grow coffee in the hills. And of course, in addition, will be a little bit of the reality of the economical. We don't have too much money to invest in technology. So a little bit faster with the next topic that will be some of the rich diversity of profiles. As I already told you, for those who are just entering Colombia, we have 22 states out of the 32 that we have. And in those 22 states, we grow coffee. And of course, different weather, different altitude, different geographical location is going to modify the terroir. And that terroir is going to produce different profiles. So we have coffee in Huila that is very popular nowadays. We have coffee in Antioquia, very strong state. We have coffee in Tolima. And of course, we have coffee in Santander. Our region that is known as Quindío, you can see the landscape back of the picture. This region, Quindío, with other 2 neighbors that are known as Caldas and Risaralda, we have been declared by the UNESCO as a worldwide heritage site because of the coffee. And that's also to support that for Colombians, coffee is not only coffee. For Colombians, coffee is a lot of rich details around the business, gastronomy, dances, and other typical traditions around the coffee. So the coffees of Quindío, that is where we are located, are going to be coffees with medium high fragrance, floral aromas or almonds, juicy floral acidities, rounded medium body, and a long pleasing dark chocolate aftertaste. Of course, this is like a general profile. When you start like searching into one little town or one plantation, you will see that that profile will be like a one direction of the coffee flavor, but it's going to be a little bit different from town to town, from farm to farm. Where we are located, this is the Colombian map. Remember, in those, we have a quite big country. Some people believe that the diversity of Colombia is the same diversity that we have from Mexico to Panama. We have it in only one country. So the place where San Alberto is the purple region, and you will see those mountain range that are going to divide the country, and that's why we have so crazy weather. Remember, in Colombia we don't have seasons, so that's tropical weather, and that's going to affect the way the coffee is going to ripe, and that's also going to affect the quality of the coffee. Some of the numbers of the region, just to keep it in mind, those 4 regions are the ones considered the coffee culture landscape, the UNESCO heritage site, and it's quite popular nowadays for the tourism. So any day that this pandemic is like improving a little bit, you are more than welcome to visit the capital city of Quindío, the place where we are located. It's Armenia. We have an international airport, and remember the little town where we are located, the farm, is Buenavista. But Pereira, there is a bigger city, it's also very close. And just see those numbers. In Quindío, we are only 5,000 families growing coffee. And if you go up to Caldas, it's 32,000 families growing coffee. So that's quite a huge responsibility for those growers to impact the economic of the country. That's our beauty, that's San Alberto. We are very close to the main square of the town, Buenavista. Buenavista is actually the smallest town of the Quindío region, and the picture is taken from the main square of the town. So you can see on your left, you will see a little cafe. We have a coffee shop that we normally like to name it like coffee temples. So that's where we receive the tourists. We have a nice cafe with all a nice espresso machine, different brew devices. Then you have like a white house, that's the coffee lab. Then you have like a long horizontal house, that's the family house, and from that altitude over will be the plantation. The altitude in the coffee business is very important. The higher you are, less production you will have, but better flavors, better sugar fixation. So that's why plantations over 1,500 meters above sea level are considered high mountain coffee. Coffees above 1,500 are not bad coffees. Those are just normal coffees. The coffee is going to be good. Yes, it's going to taste as coffee, of course, but the aromatical profile and the flavor and the acidity is going to be very flat. And that's why the roasters around the world, when they visit any country, the first question they are going to ask will be, Juan Pablo, give me your altitude. If we'll say 1,100 meters, they will say, thank you, nice farm, but the possibilities of having a great coffee is very, very, very low. And when we start telling them we are 15, 16, 1,700 meters above zero, they will open their eyes and will say, okay, so that's very interesting, and they will come. Remember, the higher we are, less volume we have, more acidity, more aromatical compounds are going to be in the coffee. And that's why specialty coffee, very, very unique cup of coffees are going to be 1,500 and over. As you can see, that's a very nice picture about the intensity of the green. We have a lot of trees, we have bamboo, we have flowers, we have trees, and of course, a lot of trees in a hectare. In 1 hectare, we can have at least 5,000 or 6,000 trees. That's a little closer map of the country. So that's where we are. The left border of the country will be the Pacific Sea, and Buenaventura will be the port. So normally we can export coffee through Buenaventura if we are going to Asia or South America, and we are going to use Atlantic Port Cartagena to reach United States, Canada, and Europe. And that's a little bit of the claim where we are. It's San Alberto coffee, inspired by the grain wines of France and developed for those who enjoy the life through exquisite luxuries. So let's see a short video of the farm so you can like feel some of the weather, some of the view. So that's the little cafe that we have in the middle of the plantation. Then you see the parking lot and the coffee lab.
That's beautiful.
And you can see why we joke around that Buena Vista, that in English will mean good view, is the best name that we can have for the town. We can see all the Quindío Valley, and we can see part of the Cauca Valley that will be Cali, the capital city of that.
That's wonderful.
So we have some of the prizes and the awards that we have been winning, and that's very important for all the people today. Is awards and prizes are just, well, it's going to like fulfill our heart and our pride, but the most important aspect of the prizes and the awards are going to be the consistency. If you win just one time, many people will say you were lucky. 2 years, double luck. But when you start like winning since 2012 until today, 2020, we are like saying to the consumers, to our customers, and to the market that San Alberto, we are already learned how to grow great coffee. And this is like the wine. Some people from France are going to fly to Chile to teach how to grow coffee. And in coffee, we are saying to them, it's exactly the same. We can learn, and of course, we can teach. In the business in coffee, we're a little bit more closed-minded, different from the wines. In the wines, people are going to travel around. They will charge a lot of money for the advices. In the coffee, it's just like a new business. Some people is starting to travel from Central America to South America and then to Africa. And even some of your NGOs are going to help. There's one big NGO, it's going to be USAID. USAID, they have like a coffee program that is going to support. And in Colombia, we have some regions that are not so easy to run. And USAID with the Colombian government, they are investing a lot of money to preserve those regions into the legality. And the best idea was, let's teach them how to grow coffee. And those regions suddenly became the most popular regions in the world for coffee. Huila, Cauca, Tolima, and Nariño. All those 4 regions were quite difficult a few years ago, and now we are in peace, and now those regions are very popular for the roasters around. So remember the prices. Of course, we feel very proud for the prices. It's saying to the consumer that this plantation is already working consistency, that we learn how to replicate those flavors. It's a matter of technique. It's a matter of processes, of discipline, and of course, it's a matter of luck. A little bit of luck because we depend on the weather. In a coffee field, you will never see irrigation system. Our irrigation system is God, and lately, God is not helping. So when we are expecting the sun, it's not dry enough, and when we need water, we receive sun. But anyway, that's part of the magic of a grower, and that's why my only big objective of today is to share with you that being a grower, it's the magic of the business. Because when you are a roaster, you will travel around the world and you will say, okay, Juan Pablo, I like your coffee. Catalina, I didn't like your coffee. Sorry, I will not buy those beans from you. And the poor grower is going to keep those beans and she will not have any future just because the roaster is not buying the beans. When you are the grower, we have to be able to succeed with the beans that we grow. We don't have any alternative of buying coffee around. We have to be able to run the plantation, to be able to win against the weather, win against the diseases, at the end, to build that coffee that you are dreaming. And that's why we believe that the roasters, those guys are good guys, but the roaster is going to be in another level of responsibility and another level of details and purity. And the growers, we are the ones running the plantations from 9 months of the 9 months of the cherry, and we have to be able to produce in order to survive into the business.
Interesting.
This is my father. So that's a little marketing for him. He was not in the business, he was in the rice business. But when we start like running this new idea of the business, he joined us and he's helping us with the plantation. And he's the most passionate and visionary person that we know. Even though he was very successful with the rice company, he's still running the rice company. But with the coffee, he fell in love. And when he started like hearing us talking about wine and coffee, he started like understanding why. This picture was taken 2017. If you saw the awards, we have been winning international awards only because in the country we don't have any good amount of contest or very good strong marketing contest. But the Coffee Federation, they launched a coffee contest 2016 that will be like our Cup of Excellence. The coffee entity, they were running the Cup of Excellence program. They quit. They started developing their own program. And in 2017, we won as the most exotic coffee. And we export that coffee to Shanghai. And the poor roasters of Shanghai, they pay almost $35 per pound green coffee. Remember that the normal price of the market will be a little bit more than $1 per pound. So being a specialty is going to change the business. And that's why we have to change the consumer education, because if the consumer understand bad coffee against good coffee, and if they are able and willing to pay better prices, behind us, we have a lot of neighbors, a lot of growers that are saying, if the coffee business doesn't change, we're going to quit.
Interesting.
And of course, this is Juan Valdez, the new Juan Valdez. Remember that Juan Valdez is the logo of our country. It's a stamp of traceability. Any coffee bag that it will be roasted around the world and they want to put the stamp, they have to support that coffee with the invoices of 100% Colombian coffee. So that's why Colombia is a well-known origin as coffee, because the industry is loving the discipline, the organization, and at the end, the consumer is tasting and saying, okay, Colombian coffee is better than many other producers. A little bit of the data of our farm. The farm is 40 hectares. When you see 40 hectares, you will say, it's not so big. I agree with you. This is not a big plantation, but just remember that the average in Colombia is a little bit less than 2 hectares. So having 40, they put us in a medium-sized like plantation. Some people believe that less than 5% of the Colombian plantations are going to be bigger than 10 hectares. So being 40 is already a nice number, and we are able to produce around 100,000 kilos and 120,000 kilos per year. That will give you at least like 90,000 bags of roasted coffee. And that's why also why San Alberto is targeting the luxury niche, because we don't have volume. We are just a single state farm working for quality. And that's part of the support of the strategy, is that we don't have too much volume to sell to big grocery stores. We have to be just very focused into the high-end luxury exclusiveness, where the good consumer is able to find us. He's going to understand the magic of the traceability, the magic of the quality, and his senses is already awakened for those qualities. Remember the altitude, the weather. Nice thing, it will be the sustainability stamps. So many people, they will use this as a commercial claim. Hey, I am green, I am rainforest, or I am woods. In our family, we believe that being fair with the environment and being fair with the community must not be considered a commercial claim. Instead, being fair with the world is mandatory. So that's why we believe that we are luxury, and we are very proud because of the quality and the flavor. And of course, for those that are asking, we follow those trends. We have the sustainability stamp of rainforest and woods, but we believe that this is not unique. Our quality is unique, and everybody must have something to be sustainable with the community and the environment. So very fast, I was joking before you entered that many tourists, when they arrive to the farm, they believe that the coffee is roasted on the tree. So let me explain a little bit of the details of how the plantation is run. We have the seeds, so we plant it. Then we have the little coffee tree alive. That will be like a matter of 3 months in the coffee nursery, and then we will move it to a greenhouse. That's the picture we are seeing. And we keep it in the greenhouse because those little babies are very weak to the real world. The lot is the real world. So we have to keep it, all of them together, in order to aid them with the water, or aid them with covering against the water or the sun. Because once we move it to the plantation, to the lot, we will never going to be able to aid them very, very well. So normally will be 3 months in the coffee nursery, 3 months in the coffee in the greenhouse. Then we move it to the plantation, and we will have the blossom. The flowering of the coffee, it will be very close to the jasmine, white. It will be only with us 3-4 days on the branches of the tree. The flower will dry and it will fall down, and the small bottom of the flower will start developing, and 9 months after, it will become a nice red ripe cherry. That's the picture. And the red ripe cherry is the one that we have to pick it.
The pollination, is it a fly or is it a bee, or what helps the pollination?
Both. Mainly will be bees, but and when you see the flower, you will start, when the flowering is happening, you can hear the zzz around the plantation, because we need them. And that's one of those big debates, like 2019. They were saying that the population of the bees were decreasing, and of course, if we don't have bees, we don't have coffee and many other crops. So that's why we have to be ecological friendly in order to preserve the environment for those bees, flies to keep working with the pollination. So that's the red ripe cherry that you have to pick. Very important news, the coffee cherry, once you pick it, it will not continue the process of brightness. The opposite. In a matter of 7-8 hours, that nice red cherry will start decomposing, and it will start smelling like vinegar and turning black. So if you pick it green, you will have to process the cherry green, and the flavor will be very bitter, very dry. If you pick it red, you have to process it very fast in order to avoid fermentation. And if you pick it overripe, of course, the flavors are going to be like potato, like cucumber, any vegetable. So that's why the magic of the hand picking is a huge responsibility for the quality. Colombia, only hand picking. Central America, only hand picking. Brazilians and Vietnamese, they have some mechanical pickers. They use flat terrain, so they can like shake the tree, and they will be able to pick red ripe cherries, but of course, overripe, green, leaves, and sticks. The cost of production, of course, is very low, but the quality is way different from us.
And the fact that you're higher up, closer to the sun, obviously that accelerates the fact that it's hotter, warmer, and more exposed. Do you actually go through, like grapes and like chocolate, do you actually go through a process where you pick only at night or in the morning, or do you have a cooling process once you collect these beans?
There are many different strategies. So in our farm, what we do is that it's impossible to pick at night because of the density of the plantation. And remember, the topography is not flat terrain, will be like this. So it'll be very difficult. And of course, you have to be able to see the color of the cherry in order to see which one to pick and we want to reject. But at the farm, what we do is that we pick it at a.m. from 6 a.m. till 11 a.m. And we will start processing those cherries in that moment in order to avoid the hot back that it can be like affecting the quality of the coffee. And some farms that are beginning to play with the drying system, and they will start drying the coffee in black warehouses. So they don't want the heat of the sun reaching the coffee. They want the warm, the temperature, but they don't want too high in order to preserve it like cool. It will be a longer period of drying system, but it will affect the quality, of course.
Fantastic.
So every day that you pick, you have to process the coffee. Once you process the coffee, look at that view. That's another part of the plantation. You can see different intensities of the green, different ages of the coffees. Those are the most important persons in the business, the pickers. By the way, the pickers are normally nomads. They are like jumping from region to region, following the harvest. So they will stay at the farm 2-3 weeks. When they start like seeing that the productivity and the volume is decreasing, They will say Juan Pablo and San Alberto, bye-bye, thank you, and they will go to Antioquia, or they will go to Nariño. The only magic that we have is that we preserve our plantation in very good conditions. The pickers, they love to work in the field because they will earn a lot of money. And also we're very close to the main square of the town, so they can go to the town to drink a Coca-Cola, and they can go back. So that's part of one of those advantages of San Alberto. Top work. Imagine those guys picking 100 kilos of cherries per day. They will use those plastic bags around their waist, and they will start filling a bag of fruits.
Oh.
They will deliver the bag of fruits 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. The chip will measure the amount of kilos because we'll pay them by the kilo, and then we will start processing the cherries. We sort it by water, then we depulp it. The pulpit is just like squeezing, and once we squeeze it, we will find one of those 2 almonds per cherry. I will show you later the cherries. That's the measuring. That's one of our main trademark processes that we call the quintuple selection process. Is accepting that in Colombia, as we don't have seasons, just picking the red ripe cherry or 100% ripe cherries is impossible. Colombian coffee is so good that even with that reality, the coffee is going to taste great. But our dream was, how about if we sorted and we just produce our coffee with 100% red ripe cherries? So we're making this process not at the plantation, but in the warehouses, and using single mothers from the little town Buena Vista. The ladies are in charge of sorting one by one, and surprise, from 100 cherries, 45 are going to be 100 red ripe cherries. And that's the main material for San Alberto roasted brand.
Wow.
Then with the pulpit, very simple machine by friction. It's like squeezing it. And when we squeeze it, then we wash it and we sort it again by hand. And the little town that you are seeing on the back of the picture, that's Buena Vista. And that's it, because it's very small. And that's the final product of the farm. The picture of your right of your screen. That's what we know as gold coffee or parchment coffee. That is the same raw coffee that I will show you here. That will be like this. So just pay attention on how the process is. That normally these 2 almonds are going to be joined like through the flat side, like a ball. And the 2 almonds are going to cover by the red skin. So once we pick it, we depulp it, and when we depulp it, these 2 almonds are going to open. We wash it and we dry it, and we have the gold coffee. Gold coffee is not ready to be exported, and it's not also ready to be roasted. So it's missing one step. The step is known as the dry mill. What's the dry mill? Is peeling the gold skin of the bean that's squeezed with fingers. It's not by hand. Normally it's going to happen in the factories, but with the fingers we can play and simulate the process. And now we have the green beans. So this is what we roast, and this is what we normally export. The strategy is changing. We are tired of exporting the green bean. We want to roast the coffee in Colombia and export it roasted. And when we started roasting and exporting the coffee, we are changing the idea. We are like exporting a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey. We are not only exporting coffee, but also history, tradition, the concept of the brand. And the skin, the gold skin, is going to be used by the mechanical dryers to heat the air to lower the moisture.
A couple questions came in. What happens to the pulp, by the way? Can anything be done with the pulp that is, removed from the bean? And then the second question is, now that you're actually going into the roasting process, once it arrives its own destination, be it Italy or the US, whatnot, does it go for a further roasting process or anything else, or no?
So good question. So the first one is with the pulp, with the skin, and with the honey. We have like a honey inside the coffee cherry that it's known like the mucilage of the coffee. Those persons that have tasted the lychee is going to be like covered with a yellow honey. Coffee is going to have it, and we have to wash it very fast to avoid fermentation. So with the skin, the pulp, and the honey, many people have been like researching and investing money to see what to do. All the farmers, every day of the week, from Monday to Friday, we will handpick the cherries and we will process it every day of the week. So every day of the week, we are delivering to the world a pulp and the honey. In Colombia, the authorities are very, very concerned about the contamination. So farmers like us, we are going to be visited by the authorities to see what we are going to do with the water, with the skin. And the only way of preserving it is throwing this honey and the pulp to a warehouse, and we will leave those for 2 or 3 months. It will start like decomposing, and we will return it to the field as a natural fertilizer.
Oh, interesting.
I know, Bertie, that some countries, Central America countries, they were making like a rum with this. I haven't tried it. Some others were trying to produce biodiesel. And lately, some people in Europe, they are like selling cascara tea. What's the cascara tea? They are drying the pulp with the sun. Like they're like paying attention to this pulp. They're like washing it a little bit and they are drying it with the sun. And they're selling it as a tea. I tasted from the farm. It's like hibiscus. It's very greenish flavor, very bitter, but at least it's a way of selling and earn some money. But anyway, we produce hundreds of kilos every day of the week. So one of those mysteries will be what to do with the pulp and with the honey. And in the question about the green coffee, once the coffee is green, and let me show you this, the green coffee that I have also here. So I have a bowl full of green coffee. This is what normally we'll put inside those jute bags. We can send it by 35 kilos bags or 70 kilos bags. And this coffee is ready to roast it. So once they arrive to the port, they can roast it at the other day. The tricky part really will be how to preserve the freshness of the green coffee. So normally the good roasters, they will have a nice warehouse with moisture control and air condition, depending on the moment of the year, because the coffee will start losing freshness. So that's part of the magic. It's also how to preserve it. So we are using the jute bags, but inside the jute bags, we use a bag that is known as Grain Pro, like a very thick plastic bag that we'll put inside the green beans. We will close it and we'll put the bag inside the jute bag. And it will be like almost vacuum, and it will help us to preserve the coffee for 5-6 months without any problem.
Just
So let's see a fast video of the farm.
I find this incredibly beautiful, by the way. Where it's set, it's just
So that's the little seed.
paradise.
We have the small babies alive, the flower, then the cherries developing, green, yellow, orange, red, ripe cherries. They pick it by hand. They deliver the cherries every day in the afternoon. Then we wash it. We sort it by water, by density. We depulp it. Remember, 2 seeds or 2 almonds per fruit. And then we dry it. And we have the gold coffee. Remember, the gold coffee is not able to be exported. It's missing one step. We can dry the coffee with sun and the wind, or we can have mechanical dryers that we have in the farm, some of them. And that's the normal coffee that many growers are going to sell into the domestic market.
Awesome. Looks like heaven up there, Juan.
You have to visit. It's very close to heaven. Remember that we are very high in altitude. So this is a good picture we have on your left of your screen. You have the green coffee. The right screen will be the roasted coffee. And in the middle is the bags that we use for exportation of the green beans. This is our coffee. So we want to be like a new concept of growers. We got tired of the dirty hands of the growers and the image of poor Colombian coffee grower. He's suffering. Yes, many of us are having difficulties through the whole year. Even this 2020 will be a disaster in terms of the pandemic and the the prices and many other diseases arriving. But we believe that the moment has arrived that we have to change the idea of marketing the Colombian coffee. Many roasters are showing just a sad image of the business, and they're going to say to you, the consumers, hey, please buy our beans because we are supporting the growers. Many times that's not happening, that's only marketing. In other times, many of those are very responsible persons, and in reality, they are co-investing with them. That's a different business, and they are successful. But the magic is we are inviting the growers to start adding value to the coffee, stop selling gold coffee in the market, try to at least sell the green coffee to a roaster. And of course, the dream of any grower is arriving to sell their roasted coffee from their own beans.
Fantastic.
As I was saying, this region, Verde, is also growing very fast in terms of reputation around the tourism. As many people is going to visit California for the wines and France for the wines and from the vodka and etc. People is arriving to Colombia to visit the coffee farms. And that's a magic surprise because that's going to bring some more money to the region. And we are one of those pioneers in the business. We are making great tours around the plantation, and we also have some coffee shops around the country, and we are also making coffee tastings, coffee educational sessions just for fun. This is not like a professional coffee academy. This is San Alberto presenting their coffee to the final consumer, but of course we are giving deep information about the country, deep information about the industry.
Just a point sorry to interrupt, just a point of, I'm just curious, and I'm sorry to ask, but I've noticed that tree a couple slides ago, it was a beautiful tree full of purple in it. And I noticed your branding has a lot of purple. Is there some connection there with that tree? Or?
No, actually, no. And that's a good topic to have it in the market. No, it's called Siete Cueros, the tree. It's like a very active tree. It will be almost the whole year with the purple flowers, but it doesn't have anything with the purple. The purple color, it's a strategy from us, is that many brands are using the red, dark red, and it's like a synonymous of coffee, red coffee. And we have like started researching, and we didn't find any purple brand, and that's why we launched it purple. And and we are in love with the color. Even when you visit our coffee shop, you will see some of the walls painted with this color. It's giving a nice, warm atmosphere.
Absolutely, it's excellent.
That's the first location that we opened to the tourism. It's in the lower part of the plantation. It's a coffee shop with a magical view, and that's also like the main desktop for the tours. People arrive there, we will give them some coffee, we will share the history of the plantation, some of the Colombian details, and then we'll start walking around, and then we will finish at the coffee lab. This is the coffee lab. So the purple one, and that was in purpose, Verde. The purple color of the roaster, yes, it is related with the purple of the brand. That's one of our cafes.
And
yes, Carolina.
also, the purple is related with royalty, the concept of royalty.
With the popes also. Remember, the popes are also using the
popes.
purple for the special occasions.
That's true.
And so this is some of the setup of the coffee experience that we normally make. The tourists loving it. Normally, like 99% of the tourists that arrive to San Alberto will be international visitors, because for Colombians, coffee is just coffee. It's not a good news, because for Colombians, we grew up with the coffee and we believe that we know everything about coffee. We don't know anything about coffee yet. You, the visitors, are more knowledgeable in coffee than us. But I believe that this pandemic is like awakening a nationalism sense in terms of the coffee. So lately people is asking at least for more information about the coffee they are drinking.
Fantastic.
So those jeeps are very, very traditional in the region. Those are Jeep wheelies. They were used like in the eras of the World War, and those are fantastic cars. Many years ago, we were moving the coffee with the donkeys. Then we changed it to the wheelies. And now we are using trucks. But tourism, they love, we rent some of them, and we can make like a short trip from the lower part of the farm to the upper part of the farm just for fun, and they will enjoy the trip.
That's amazing.
You can see the pickers when they arrive to the delivery of the farm of the cherries. We even have some molecular tasting, so we have like investing in research and saying how to present the coffee in a different way. It's not just coffee, but we can like add some magic. So I like start researching and reading, and I got involved with the molecular cuisine. And I realized that if we change the texture of the coffee, we can present the flavors to the consumer in a different way. And surprise, when you change the texture, you will have a longer period of enjoyment of the coffee. The liquid is very short. We drink it and it's almost disappearing very fast for many consumers. But when you start playing with the ices of the nitrogen, or you start playing with some syrups or with some foams, it will give you a different texture, longer enjoyment of the coffee, different ways of presenting the coffee flavor. So this is actually a very successful experience, Birdie, because it's saying to the world, coffee is at the same level of high cuisine. Yes, we have research, we have been spending a lot of tests to be able to design like a tasting menu, and it's fun. They have the wow factor, and the tourist is enjoying very fast. So this is our location in one of Bogota.
Wow.
And we're going to talk maybe later about this. During the pandemic, our locations were closed and no tourism is arriving yet to the country. Very few amount of tourists are arriving. So instead of just cry in our offices, we decide to build and to launch a different product. And this is what we know as the virtual coffee baptism. That is very fun. We can ship it worldwide. Like this. This is one of our cafes in Candelaria. That will be like the historical center of Bogota. It's brand new. 1 week before the pandemic, we opened this. This is Usaquén. These are more like Bogota district. Beautiful. This is Cartagena Historical Center.
So you do everything from farm to table. I mean, you're covering the whole aspect of the journey.
And actually, we were not only a good example for Colombians, but also for the world of coffee, because we are a good example of how to be successful with a farm. Many growers are just complaining because of the price, concerning because of the roaster, concerning because of life. But we were saying, you have 100 hectares. With 100 hectares, you have two options. Or you build a new business, or you sell the property. But just complaining is not a sustainable behavior of the humans. In Colombia, we have very good producers, but remember, for those that are today joining us, being a grower back 1976, 78, it was a great business. It was a very easy business. You grow the coffee, you sell it, and the prices were sky prices. 1988, it was a bonanza. The reason, it was some frozen in Brazil. So Brazil, he lost all the coffee. So the price of a pound of green coffee reached around $3.08 or almost $4 the pound. Remember, 1978. In that moment, my grandfathers and grandfathers, they went traveling the world. They bought more properties. They sent their sons to very luxury universities around the country and the world. Today, the price of the coffee, 2020, almost 50 years after, is 120.
Unbelievable.
It's not fair. It's crazy. Everything is increasing and coffee price is decreasing. And that's one of the main objectives of the educational session that we make is, hey, consumer, if you like coffee, pay attention. If you don't pay good prices, many of the growers are going to quit because the cost of production is higher than the selling price. And remember, some of the cafes that you visit are going to sell espresso for $5. That's not the problem. They can sell it for $10 if they are selling good coffee. But the sad aspect is that the poor grower it's receiving a very small amount of the business. So that's the way we have to change it. And the only way is as the consumer and the grower pushing the industry to say, hey, let's change it. And really, when we change the strategy of San Alberto, we start seeing the numbers. When you start selling these through Amazon, you start saying, I sell coffee in Amazon, US dollars, and when I bring that money to pesos, to Colombian pesos, numbers starts being interesting. And that's one of the invitation of us as a grower, as a leader of the market in Colombia, is that if we keep selling just the gold coffee, it's not a sustainable business. Remember, Brazilians and Vietnamese, they are powerful families behind the business. Even transnational companies, they have been investing in their fields. So they're able to earn some money with these crazy prices that we have. But Colombians and Central Americans, we don't have technology. Our roads aren't so good yet. We don't have infrastructure. So for us, the only way to survive with coffee is targeting specialty business. And the only way to earn good money will be roasting the coffee and sell it directly to the consumer, or selling our green beans to a very unique boutique roastery and having a different relation in order to split the money. And I believe that that's going to happen very soon. And that's why you will start like seeing some of the roasters saying, I'm very fair with the grower. I'm very, very generous with the grower. That's fair. But just remember, 1978, almost $4 the pound. Today, 2020, a little bit more than $1. And some coffee shops are selling $5 per espresso. Remember, I don't have anything against the price. San Alberto in Colombia is considered very, very expensive. We charge for one espresso around $2.50, and for Colombians, it's crazy. But we are saying this is quality, this is a good brand, this is good product, this is Colombian industry, and people is tasting and saying, okay, I agree with that. So the problem is not the price, the problem is that the poor grower is not receiving enough money, and maybe they're going to get tired and they are going to quit the business.
So Juan, in other words, one of the things that is interesting about what you're saying is, in a way, you've been through 3 or 4 generations of growing, and you've seen different crises along the way, but COVID has, in a way, made you stand shoulder to shoulder with the big producers, right? Because now you're able to not have that relationship with a middleman, whoever it would have been, a producer or a supermarket, etc. Now you can go directly to the consumer, and you've got this full package anyway. I mean, you're the grower, you're the marketer, and you are also the shipper, and basically you've got control of the consumer more than before. So now you have this dialogue, like this one here today, to basically express this passion that we're going to carry and give to others as well, our friends, our family. God, you know, this coffee, it's amazing. It's not Starbucks, it's not Pete's Coffee, it's San Alberto, which has this story. So it's really interesting that you're able to do all of that in such a short amount of time. It must have taken you an immense amount of time and challenges. I mean, maybe later on after you can explain some of the challenges that you faced.
Yes, it is we're very, very happy with the results. At the beginning, even my family, not my father, but my cousins and aunts, they were saying, Juan Pablo, you are crazy. You are going to destroy the family because that's not going to happen. Our first bag of coffee was already higher than Juan Valdez Cafe bag. And for Colombians, Juan Valdez was wow with the super quality. And we started saying, we don't have anything close to that brand. That's a good brand, but it's a different concept. And I always refer to the wines. Remember that many years ago, the wineries, they were not selling the bottles. They were selling the wines to the merchants. And the merchants were in charge to commercialize the wines. And suddenly there are bottling the wine in the winery, and now the business is in control by the owner of the winery, not because of the merchant. So if you make the same example with the coffee, we are way behind, because in the business, it seems that the roaster is more important than the grower, and that's not true. The roaster is not going to be able to roast anything if we, the growers, don't work the soil. So that's part of the crazy idea of many of the consumers and the crazy of the industry. In the coffee, the control is controlled by the roasters, and the roaster is not going to be like, he will not even pay attention to the weather. They need coffee, they will raise their phone. Hey, I need 20 tons of green coffee. Can be Colombian or Central America. Okay, next week it's going to arrive because they will bring it from the warehouse from any city, and that's it. Nice business, of course. They have been making a great work. Normally in Spanish we say, to Cesar what is from Cesar. So those roasteries, they make a good job. But at least we need that the consumer understand that the roasters is not the same grower, and that the grower is the magician behind the real good coffee.
Exactly. Bravo, it's true.
So now we're seeing some of the details of the brewing. So I don't know, Brew, do you have any question, or Carolina, you have any question about the plantation, about the processes? Because we are going to arrive to the brewing technique, and we are going to brew one coffee, and I'm going to give some advices how to smell it, how to taste it.
I want to open up the mics over to everybody. So I'm going to unmute everybody for a second here. Hey, everybody, if you have a question that you'd like to pose Juan today, we're going into a new chapter right now, which is about, smelling and understanding and tasting the notes. But in the meantime, anybody have any questions? I've unmuted everybody, I think. No? Anybody want to raise your hand? Okay. All right. Hi, Philippe. How are you?
Hi.
All right. We're going to go back to you, Juan. Thank you. Oh.
I have a question.
Okay.
Fine. Why the Colombians, we don't drink high quality coffee? I mean, I want you to explain us why we don't drink good coffee. See, what we drink really in Colombia. Please explain us.
Question. Yeah. Hold on. We don't hear you.
Right. So that's a very good question, Carolina. I was forgetting that small detail of the business in the country. Remember at the beginning, I was saying that our coffee entity, they have two responsibilities. The first one is aid and support the small grower. And the second is to build a Café de Colombia reputation worldwide. And in that objective of the reputation, we have two policies. One of the policies is Colombia, we only grow the Arabica coffee. Remember, on the Arabica, you have different varieties. Arabica Caturra, Arabica Geisha, Arabica Castillo, Arabica Bourbon, etc., etc. And the second policy that is going to be answering your question is that our coffee entity, many years ago, they decide to ban the exportation of the low quality coffee. So it's not possible to export the low quality. And the only reason why is that we want to control and to preserve the good reputation that we have. If we export the low quality, we're going to affect the good reputation of Café de Colombia. So the sad news is that saying that we can export the coffee or the low quality coffee is not the same as saying that we are going to destroy the low quality coffee. In reality, the low quality coffee is going to be used. Any bean of the farms is going to be used. But the sad news is that the low quality coffee is going to remain for the domestic market. And that's why, Carolina, many of the Colombians, when they talk about coffee, they will start talking about a bitter, woody, dry beverage that we need coffee, sugar, milk, and cream in order to drink it. So the roasteries, when they are using low quality beans, they're going to over roast the coffee. So remember, when you taste a coffee or you smell the bag and you feel some over roasted notes, smokiness, some woody, some like cooked beef, some earthy, the coffee that you are going to drink is a low quality coffee that is going to be covered by over roasted notes in order to just selling coffee. Specialty coffees, we don't have anything to hide, many things to share. So that's why the new trend is roasting lighter. Because when you roast something lighter, the consumer is going to be able to enjoy all the aromas and all the flavors. Of course, we want to hide something, we can roast medium roast. So when you visit Colombia, you will see that many Colombians are going to drink awful coffee. Cheapest than the cheapest brand of the States, and that's true. We are improving, and it's mainly because of you. When you are deciding to visit the country and you stay in a hotel in the country, or you visit a nice restaurant and you drink coffee and you start complaining and saying to the owner, I'm in Colombia, I was expecting a better cup of coffee. That's going to help us to change. And now we are improving. And Colombians, we love to follow the trend around. So now when you visit, you will see that some amount of coffee shops are roasting nice coffees. Colombians are spending a little bit more money than yesterday in their coffees. So the business is changing. We are still very way behind from California, for example, Verdi, that in California, the trend and the coffee culture is very, very deep, very strong. In Colombia, we have to learn, but at least we are already starting the trend, and we'll see that maybe in 10 years, we will not be like if we keep it at home, the coffee, we will not be like exporting too much coffee, because if the Colombians start paying the fair price for good coffee, we'll be more than happy to keep the coffee here.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's go to the brewing. So brewing, and just for the audience to have it simple, is in addition to the quality, in addition to the way we roast it, we have to be very, very, very focused on the way we brew it. So same coffee, same water coffee ratio, just different brewing device is going to highlight different flavors of the coffee. So we have like mainly 4 techniques of brewing. One technique is using gravity as the extraction force, and those coffees are known as drip coffee, filter coffee. We can use a paper filter, a cloth filter, a plastic filter, and we'll add the coffee by hand or with a machine, and the coffee will go through the coffee powder, and that's extraction by gravity. The result of those coffees are going to be very smooth flavors, big size in milliliters, and it's not very intense and power. You will feel some of the aromatical notes, a lot of acidity, but it's a very friendly cup of coffee. Second technique will be the vacuum. So the vacuum will be the siphon that you see, the third one from left to right. That it's vacuum. So vacuum is like pulling. Vacuum is stronger than gravity. So brewing coffee with the vacuum is going to have a deeper extraction, and the coffee is going to be bolder. Coffee is going to be less acid than the filter coffee. And we will highlight a little bit more the roasted and spices notes. The third one will be the espresso machine or pressure. Pressure is pushing the water using pressure, like 9 bars. 9 bars is a measure of the pressure, and that's like 40-45 kilos of strength. So we like squeezing the water with the powder, and we'll have the espresso. Espresso will be very short, very powerful beverage, and the espresso is going to be very fast, 2 or 3 sips, and that's it. And we will use the espresso for the macchiatos, latte, cappuccinos. At home, we don't spend that amount of money for at home. Espresso machines can be $10,000, $50,000 the machine. So I would love to have one in the house, but I don't have it. I have the Mocha, the Italian, that will be the one over the stove. That's very popular in Europe because it's going to be also pressure. It's like boiling water. It's going to pass through a pipe, and it's going to finish in the upper part. That's going to be pressure coffee. It's going to be bolder than the filter coffee, bolder than the vacuum. And we have the last one that will be the coffee press or the French press. That will be this. I will show you here in the screen. So this is the coffee press. That's just putting the water, adding the coffee, and we will leave it for 4 or 5 minutes of immersion. same as the tea. And at the end, we will just push the plunge down and we will filter the coffee. This method is the closest method to the lab, because in the lab, we don't use any brewing device. In a lab, we only use a glass with water and coffee and a spoon. So all the oils are going to arrive to the spoon. In the coffee press, we don't have any paper filter or cloth filter. So all the oils are going to arrive to the cup. So that's why the texture of the coffee press is thicker, is a little bit sandy, and it's sweeter. So the texture of the coffee press is way different from the gravity or the vacuum or even the espresso. Remember, this is the closest to the coffee lab. So it's a good technique to evaluate the coffees. And this is the gravity that I normally like. This is known as the B60. So it's quite popular nowadays. This was made by Japanese. The brand is Ario or Hario. So they changed the idea of the drip coffee. Normally, when you ask for drip coffee in a restaurant, they will use a batch brewer and they will have like a carafe or a thermo. So the coffee is not fresh and the personality of the coffee is a batch brewer. With this, the barista is going to add his own magic fact, and also he can move some of the variables to have a stronger coffee or a lighter coffee for you. And this is an imitation of the espresso. The espresso is always fresh for you. Filter coffee, normally we have to brew a big batch of coffee, and now we can use it for 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups. So this is known as the B60, V because of the shape, and 60 because of the inclination degree. So this is changing the industry. And nowadays you will see in many independent coffee shops, a lot of baristas brewing coffee this way. So you can ask for the espresso, but of course, remember espresso is going to be bolder, a lot of powerful flavors, very short amount of liquid. And this one is a drip coffee, but it's handmade and it's going to be always fresh. And you can say to the barista, hey, I like my coffee a little bit weaker, a little bit intense, and he can play with his hands and the water to brew the coffee closest to your personal preference.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this next, but grinding the beans, the coffee beans, to fit, be it the filter, the V60, or be it the French press, whatnot. Does that matter? Or, how?
Yes. So let me share the screen because I have some advices for you. So here we are. Before we start brewing, some of the advices or tips for the brewing is, first of all, the origin. Don't buy coffee just for coffee. Try to read some of the information. I am sure that many of you, when you buy a bottle of wine or a whiskey, you don't buy whiskey or wine. You at least try to go to the origin or to the region. So, of course, I will be very thankful if you only drink Café de Colombia, can be San Alberto or any other form, but at least Colombian coffee, and help us. So the first will be the origin. The second one will be you have to choose the brewing device you are going to use. Remember, 4 of them: gravity, pressure, vacuum, or immersion. All of these are going to brew great cup of coffee, but each one is going to have a different idea, a little bit weaker, a little bit intense, some different texture. So it's up to your personal preference. Third advice will be the coffee water ratio. And that's very important, really, because many persons, at least in Colombia, they were used to use very few amount of grams per cup. Remember, commercial coffee, the ones that we were talking about with Carolina, they were over roasting the beans. And when you over roast something, the bitterness is very strong. And also, those brands are going to grind the coffee very fine. So they want to produce over extraction in the coffee. So they are saying to the consumer, add few grams because my coffee is going to be very, you can brew many cups of coffee with my coffee. Doesn't matter the quality. But a good coffee, we have some ratio with the water with the coffee, is between 7 grams and 9 grams per 100 milliliters of water.
Oh.
in simple ways, I know that your metric system is different. So normal will be like a cup of coffee like this size. Let me change the screen again. So if you pay attention to this will be like the size of a cappuccino one. It's not your mug. This one is a little bit smaller. This is going to hold like 200 milliliters. So for every cup of this size, try to use 2 soup spoons of coffee.
Wow.
Wow.
I've been
So-
doing less.
Many of the surprises, Birdie, is that many people were saying I was not using enough coffee because they are used to the old school. The old school is over roasted beans, very fine particles of the coffee. The
Interesting.
fourth advice is your question. So according to the way you are going to brew, you will need different grind particles. This is very deep, very dense. I will try to be very simple. Imagine if you want to block the water, if you use sand and the particles of the sand are very coarse, the particles are going to be having some big spaces in between. Imagine like these 2 rocks, and the water is going to pass through the middle of the rocks. So that's why if you are going to brew the coffee in a coffee press, you will need a very coarse grind. The reason, the grind particle is going to be related with the amount of extraction time you will have. This one is around 4 or 5 minutes. So the longer period of extraction that you are going to have, the coarser you need your coffee. Coffee press, 4 or 5 minutes. Espresso, 20, 30 seconds. So that's why espresso is going to be almost very, very, very fine. And that's why brewing espresso at home is almost impossible. First, we don't have the machine. And second, we don't have the good particles at the coffee that we bought at the grocery store.
That's right.
And the drip coffees are going to use the medium course, medium ground. So the medium is going to be like the universal one. So if you bought a coffee at the grocery store, it will be medium. So medium will be like sand. It will be like salt, not so thick. And let me show you how it looks in the camera. And also we have another problem is the higher volume that you are going to brew, the thicker you need. So this is physics. When I hire my baristas, I normally say to the baristas, if you are expecting to just have fun in a coffee shop, this is not for you. Because in a good coffee shop, you have to think. You have to be able to understand how the water is going to pass through the powder. And if you are able to discover how to manage this relation, you are brewing great coffee. If you are just thinking the cup of coffee, you are not being a barista, because the barista is the one in charge of saying, hey, Juan Pablo, my coffee is under extracted. It means that the ground particle, maybe it was too coarse, so the water passed through the coffee very fast, so we don't have a correct extraction. And if my coffee is over extracted, maybe it's because the grind particle is very fine and the water is not passing. So that's the magic of coffee, is thinking how the water is going to pass through the coffee powder.
And speaking of water, and this might be a whole chapter on its own, when you use coffee, be it at home or be it at your store, would you recommend, I know some people actually use bottled water or water with minerals in it, extra minerals, etc. Have anything to say about, the kind of water we use?
Yes, and you're 100% true with your comment about the complete chapter about water. Even in the coffee shows, there were many booths just talking about the water. So it's a very deep chapter because the way the water is composed is going to affect the extraction. But remember, Birte, that normally we have to remember that some of the marketing basis is we have to keep it simple. Otherwise, no one is going to drink good coffee. So my only invitation is 98% of the coffee is water. So at least pay attention to the quality of the water you're going to use. Try to use filtered water, not tap water, because many of the tap water is clean, but the pipes are not clean. So that's why many of the waters are going to taste different. And remember, from city to city, they are going to use different products to clean the water. So it's going to affect. So the magic is at least filter bottled water or filtered water. And the temperature is going to be also very important, Birdi. So I'm going to start brewing the coffees. So the first advice will be, I'm going to use paper filter. Any paper filter can taste as paper. And remember, we are in the specialty coffee business, so the flavor is a concern. So the advice is always try to rinse the filter with hot water. We're going to clean the filter, and also we are going to preheat the glass. And when we preheat it, remember that the only weakness of this hand pouring is the time and the temperature. So we are, in addition to cleaning the filter, we are preheating the glass, so it's going to help us a lot in order to preserve the temperature in a good way. So I have here my coffee. I'm going to throw away this water. And I'm going to, yes, Birdi?
No, I never do. So glad you taught me that.
And it's not only this brand, any paper filter, you must wash it, because any paper filter can taste as paper.
Exactly.
And I have a scale over here. So the normal scales that we use in the industry will have a timer and of course the scale, because remember that also the time is very important. We have to evaluate the extraction time, because the extraction time is going to help us to find out if the grind particle was the correct one. Yeah. If my extraction time or brewing time was too long, something happened. Maybe I add too much grams of coffee, or maybe I grind my coffee different. This is a hand grinder. So you can find it in Amazon also, different brands. But the only important thing of the grinds is that they have not blades. This one is going to have like a burr. There are this like a ceramic disc. So you can adjust the grinder for finer or coarser grinds. If you buy a blade grinder, this blade is just going to turn around, it's going to break the beans, but it's very difficult to have consistency with these grinders. Of course, these grinders are expensive than the blade grinders.
You recommend an actual manual grinder to kind of improve the kind of crush you need. It's very interesting.
But also we have some electrical grinders that are very, very expensive. There are some brands very good. And we have some, there's a grinder brand that is called El Comandante, is from Germany. So these are like the Rolls Royce of the grinders. It's a hand grinder. It's going to be like 300 euros. Just the grinder is same size of this. So this is also a good news for the people, is that this is a hobby. And when you're in a hobby, you can spend anything you want. It's up to your budget.
That's right. Well,
it's going to depend also with your wife or girlfriend, because she's going to start complaining because of the prices you pay for your toys.
That's right. Expensive hobby.
So now we have the coffee, the water already cleaned the filter. I'm going to add the powder, and I'm going to use 48 grams of water. 48 grams of coffee. And I'm going to use 600 milliliters of water. That means that I'm going to work with 8% of concentration. That's the normal recipe of San Alberto at the coffee shops. So 48 grams, I'm going to use 600 milliliters. Remember, 8 grams per every 100 milliliters. 6 times 8, 48. That's my recipe. I'm going to move the coffee. I need that the bed of the coffee to be flat. And now I'm going to use the water. Let me move the camera that is not a bit crazy. So I have a thermometer also here. So this is becoming very picky. This is just for the class, because in reality, expecting that any consumer at home is going to use a scale and a thermometer and a timer is crazy. Because when they arrive to the brand that you mentioned at the beginning, they are not going to use any of this. So they are going to confuse. They are going to say, oh, San Alberto is too picky. It's very difficult to brew it. I'm going to visit the normal coffee shop that these guys are just selling coffee. But anyway, the temperature of the water is very important. It's going to be around 88 to 90 Celsius degrees.
On that note, I have to tell you, it is addictive. I started buying gadgets for coffee about 4 years ago, and I am now everything you've got there. And I'm so hooked on these contraptions. Like not only the measuring and scale, the crush and how it's all, even the little brush to clean. I mean, it's fascinating how crazy you can really be captivated in this world of coffee. It's amazing.
So it's a hobby. And when you start, like, I'm one of those lucky guys that I'm working a hobby. So that's why I drink good coffee. I play with the coffee. I go to the cafes, because it's not only a work, it's also a hobby. Yeah. And the good invitation is that for many of those consumers that are just drinking coffee, it's remember that coffee, it's a hobby. So give you the opportunity to buy a little device. This is not so expensive. The hand pouring is cheap. You can buy this one. This is the fancy one. This is the copper one. But you can buy a plastic one. That is this one. It's going to be like $5 or $6. So it's going to be very, very cheap. So I'm going to start brewing the coffee. So the first thing is turning the timer on. I'm going to change so you can see a little bit better. So I'm going to turn on the timer. I'm going to start pouring. And the idea of the pouring will be moving your water in circles. And even the kettle that I'm using is known as the goose head kettle, that is going to give control of the water. So that's why I can move the water thicker, I can go thinner, so I can control the way the water is reaching the powder.
You're doing it in clockwise because of those rivets in the
channels, yes. Because those channels are going to avoid that the coffee stay at the walls of the dripper, right. And that's going to allow us to have a better extraction.
Incredible. Such an art.
In Asia, this is known as slow coffee. So if you visit a specialty shop, don't expect to run with your coffee.
Nothing to go, right? We don't get it to go in Asia, I'm sure.
But I believe that with the pandemic, they have to change it. Here in Colombia, we haven't any delivery, but with the pandemic, we start to, at least we try it, to have some deliveries of cold coffees, not hot coffees. And we are like quite, we made some good numbers with the cold coffees, not with the hot. But many people arrive to our cafes and say, I have a meeting in 10 minutes, I need the coffee now. I said, no, let's visit the neighbor, because this is, at least we have to ground it. We have to clean the filter. We have to pour the water with patience. So many people start complaining, but this is part of the magic, is the correct pouring of the coffee.
Exactly.
So I'm ready. So we reach 600 milliliters, and we'll see the total amount of time that is going to take to the water to pass through the coffee and to finish brewing. I'm going to change the camera again and to give you some advices of, I'm going to just to show you the recipe. If any one of you want to copy the recipe, just remember the water temperature, the cleaning devices. One of the magics is keep your coffee toys clean. In that way, the coffee is going to taste better. Brew the coffee and drink it. Don't store the coffee. The coffee is going to lose some of the freshness. The coffee is going to lose some of their acidity, and the acidity is going to start like decomposing. So that's why many of the people is going to start complaining about their stomach. It's not because of the coffee. It's because of the way you are brewing, or if you reheat the coffee, that's terrible for your body, and of course for the coffee quality.
Wow.
So
And number 9, no sugar.
no sugar, yes, no sugar, and that's
no even honey, nothing.
nothing. It's like adding Red Bull to a single malt whiskey. If the whiskey is good, you don't need anything, just maybe a little bit of water to open the whiskey. If the whiskey is cheap, you need anything to improve the quality. Same happen with the coffee. If the coffee is nice, you don't need anything to improve because you are going to enjoy the pure black coffee flavor. Of course, if you are drinking a low quality coffee, you will need cream, sugar, honey, and a glass of water. So this is the recipe that I just made. So the 8 grams per 100, the grind particles medium, 89 Celsius degrees was the temperature of the water. And you saw the movements and the water is finishing. I'm going to change again the camera and you will see that now the coffee is almost ready. And I'm 3 minutes 58. So my target was 4 minutes to have the good extraction. So I have my coffee ready. Some of the advices before we drink it is remember the most important sense is not the palate. The most important sense is your nose. So welcome. And normally I joke always around is excuse us because from today on, Beardy and I, we are going to destroy your life because from today on, you will start smelling everything. And once you start educating your senses, you will suffer a lot. Because for now on, whiskey is not whiskey, wine is not wine, the meat is not just meat. You'll start like trying to be very curious around everything you drink and you taste. And of course, you'll have bad surprises with many of your favorite products. So the first advice will be, once you ground your coffee, try to smell the powder. Once you smell the powder, is known the fragrance. So when I smell it, I have to see if the coffee is smelling as woody, as cooked beef, as smoky, as vegetable, chemical. Good coffee must smell as roasted, but roasted good. That will be very close to a little bit of caramel, chocolate, maple syrup, honey, or vanilla. That will be like the normal aroma of a fragrance of a good coffee. The exotical coffees will be more into the green fruits like lime, citrical fruits, and some of them a little bit more floral. San Alberto will be a little bit more into the red fruits with some spices. And remember, when we talk about red berries or cinnamon or vanilla in a coffee, we are not saying that we add those products to the coffee. I used to work for wines and whiskeys, and many consumers, they start arguing to us, hey, but where's the chocolate of the whiskey? No, the whiskey is not going to have chocolate. We are saying that once I taste the whiskey, my senses are relating to chocolate or to cinnamon. So it's only a way to describe those coffees is relating what we smell with those products. So fragrance will be roasted, but roasted low. It will be roasted sweet, fresh. And the second advice will be to smell the aroma. What's the aroma? The aroma is the coffee when it's already brewed or when we are brewing the coffee, all the vapors that are coming out. So when you go to a grocery store and you smell a coffee bag, this is not aroma, this is fragrance. So fragrance is when the coffee is in dry position. And aroma is only when you brew the coffee in a restaurant, at home, or at office. So when I smell this one, it's going to be very close related with my fragrance appreciation. Sweet, roasted, I'm smelling sweetness, roasted, but now I'm feeling some of the fruits that we are always searching in San Alberto. I love the juiciness of the coffee. By the way, Birde, I'm also the taster. So I'm not only the third generation of the family, but I'm also the one in charge of traveling the farm, tasting the different pickings and deciding which coffee to use, how many coffee this one, how many coffee this one. So San Alberto is going to taste based on my personal preference. So I'm going to love the red fruits So smelling the fruits, not citrical fruits, more sweet fruits. Roasted, but remember, roasted good. Chocolate, maple syrup, some floral notes, and remember the color. That's also a surprise for many of the normal consumers. Good coffee is never going to be black. Good coffee is going to be brown. But you saw that I use a lot of grams, 48 grams of coffee. So the reason of the color is the way we roast it. And remember the question of Carolina. The higher I roast it, I'm going to hide something bad. The lower I roast the coffee, I'm confident to share with you all the magic of a good cup of coffee. So I have my coffee ready.
Juan, what
Yes.
about the leather and tobacco aromas? Are they good or?
Some types of tobacco, yes, Carolina. The leather, no. Leather is going to be like almost like a chemical. So it's not going to be considered a good attribute for coffee. But tobacco, some types of the tobacco notes are going to be positive. And remember that as all the coffees are going to pass through the roasting process, some of those roasted notes can be related with woody, with tobacco. But if you smell like an ashtray, that's over roasted. If you smell cigarette, that's not good. If you smell like nice tobacco, it will be good.
And then in your farm, and depending where you're picking the bean, I mean, do you notice differences, you know, where some perhaps may be a little bit more spicy and others less or more? Do you notice that? Like grapes, you know, we have more sun here, more shade there, more breeze there.
Exactly the same. And that's part of the challenge, Virdi, is that the only way to be consistent with that coffee, same as the wine, is to be able to control your supplier. Remember, we are the same supplier because we are the growers. And anyway, to us, being the same grower is quite difficult to be consistent through the whole year. Now imagine those roasters or those brands that they only buy the green bean. So it's quite a great work for them. The brand that you were showing at the beginning, that's a very nice example of a brand that is going to be consistent without any plantation. How they do it? Technique, investment, technology, I believe, but they have been making a very good work to be able to, if you drink that coffee in your country or in Colombia, it's going to be the same coffee. But that's very difficult. So we have in San Alberto, around those 40 hectares, we have like 19 parcels, different sizes, different ages. The reasons of the sizes, nobody knows how or why. Maybe it was my grandfather back in 1980, 1982, when he has some money, he canned some coffee and he was like dividing the farm by the time. And nowadays we have the different 1920 parcels and we have it in different ages, different varieties. And of course, Birdie, the coffee around the coffee shop that you saw is the lowest at the plantation. Is going to be a little bit less rich in aromas and in acidity if you compare with the 1800 meters lot. And even from side to side, different age is going to be different. So that's why in San Alberto, we have two techniques. The first technique is that we are going to harvest every day of the year and we are going to mark it with a number and that's going to be evaluated by itself. I'm going to taste it. I'm going to describe the coffee and only before we roast it, I'm going to choose which of those picking days to use it in our assemblage. And the second technique is the assemblage. What the assemblage or the blend? The blend is not a positive word for the industry because normally blend is going to be used for Arabica and Robusta. But in reality, blend is just mixing. But we love to name it assemblage in order to the French wines that they were saying New World wines are going to produce great wines. They didn't have any doubt about that. But they were saying that they will never create a great assemblage. Nowadays, they are successful nowadays, but the year before, Chile, Argentina, they were just selling Carmener, Malbec, just one variety. And French wines, if you read about it, they are going to always make an assemblage Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, and some others to create an identity of that region.
Namely,
yes, Brady?
like Bordeaux, right? Like Bordeaux is known for.
So San Alberto, we only have one farm. Our dream was to build a flavor identity consistent. So we are using the different parcels. We only work with two of the varieties, Arabica Caturra and Arabica Castillo. The Arabica Caturra is going to add richness, body, like silky texture, and it's going to be responsible for the power of the San Alberto and also the red fruits. And the Castillo is going to be used always in a less percentage, 20-25% of the coffee is going to be Castillo, 70-75% will be Caturra. The Castillo is responsible for the spices, for the light body. Some of the dry sensation of the coffee is going to be responsible for the Castillo. So according to the moment of the year, or according to the year, I'm going to increase a little bit the Castillo and decrease the Caturra in order to preserve the flavor of San Alberto. That's the only way to be consistent, is to control your plantation and to be able to play with those different altitudes and different geographical locations of the coffee.
Juan, why acidity is so important to coffee? Why acidity is the most important, one of the most important things in coffee?
If you ask to a Colombian, he will say that not, because remember, Colombians, we are used to the over roasted coffee, the cheap quality that we don't want to export. So for Colombians and also to many other consumers, they don't like the acidity because they are used to the old-fashioned coffee, high roasting degree, sugar, cream, and milk. But the specialty business is based in quality. And coffee without acidity is going to not be considered a specialty coffee. If you don't have acidity in a coffee, your coffee will be just commercial, a standard. It's not a bad coffee, but it's not a wow coffee. And the coffee and the acidity is going to be responsible mostly for the altitude of your plantation and also the variety that you are using, and of course, the geographical location. So for example, Brazilians, they don't have acidity. The most important profile for them is more the nutty and the power of the body. Colombia, we are known because of the elegant body, softness, juiciness. That's why when people from Italia, they visit Colombia and they ask for a coffee, they will always say Colombian coffee is water. So that's when I enter into the conversation. No, you are used to espresso in Italian. Espresso is bold. In Colombia, we just brew your coffee using gravity force. Gravity force is going to be weaker than espresso. And remember, you are drinking Robusta. This is Arabica. Arabica is going to be smoother than the Robusta. So my invitation to the Italians and to the French and to the Spanish is, once you visit Colombia, the only coffee that you must order is espresso. But anyway, our espresso is going to be weaker in body compared with the Vietnamese or the Robusta of the Brazilians. So that's why the acidity is a debate, because many consumers, mostly the older generations, they don't understand about the juiciness and the acidity. But acidity, Carolina, is considered an attribute, and it's because we love the juiciness lately. If you compare the coffee with the teas or maybe the kombucha, it seems that the young people is loving the fruit flavors. And coffee is full of fruits. If we roast it correctly and we have a good quality, coffee is going to be like that. Juicy, fruits, body, a little bit of roasted, very pleasant, very soft, and the aftertaste will be coffee, not cigar, not ashtray, not smokiness.
Well said. So, I feel like having some coffee right now. Well, I finished my cup. I'm sure I can have a few more after hearing you talk, because it's fascinating. It really is.
So the last advice, Beauty, will be, if you like good coffee, my personal advice will ask for this coffee, the V60 or any drip coffee, and start drinking your coffee in different temperatures. In that way, your palate is going to identify different flavors according to the temperature of the coffee. And the moment of truth is when the coffee is almost cold. A good coffee is going to open, is going to give you more flavors when the coffee is cold. A low quality coffee is going to be impossible to swallow. Not even with sugar, milk, and cream. A low quality coffee cold is going to be very aggressive, very bold, very dry, very bitter. When you drink a coffee, here in Bogota, I'm in Bogota today. We have been with this week a lot of rains. I believe that the temperature will be like around 10 Celsius degrees, and it's raining. So this coffee is already cold, and it's 10:43 right now. So when I drink this coffee, it's like drinking a juice, a red fruit juice. You can feel the salivation happening. You can feel some of the texture around your coffee, some bitterness, but it's pleasant, and your mouth is watering, and it's cold. So that's why in a coffee lab, and you will see when you visit us, Birdie, that in a coffee lab, we will taste it hot, we will taste it mid-temperature, but the final comments are going to arrive when the coffee is almost cold, that our palate is not going to be confused with the temperature.
Oh yeah, that's so it's kind of like a café frappé, you know, like a cold coffee during the summertime. What do you say about somebody who drinks instant coffee? I dare ask.
That's a tough question. So I believe that some brands, good brands, are entering the soluble coffee or the freeze dry coffee, and they're like spending a lot of money in technology to add some of the aromas into the freeze dry coffee. So soluble coffee is like old fashioned. Nowadays the technology is freeze dry coffee. That is like a little bit better. And I know that some brands are spending a lot of money to capture some of the aromas of the fresh coffee and re-enter it to the freeze dry coffee. I don't know how, but they're making it. But I believe, Birdy, that my personal answer to that question is, if you are in a rush, you are not expecting a good coffee. You are just expecting the caffeine or the hot beverage for the rush. So you are not going to pay attention to anything. If you are expecting a good cup of coffee, this is also a therapy. Grinding your coffee, heating the water, pouring the water. I believe that for a break in your daily work, it will be, this is a way of putting your mind in black, thinking a different, to stand up, to brew your coffee and to smell the aromas. That's part of the strategy of the coffee. This is not just coffee. Remember, this is a whole experience. And if you're in charge of brewing their coffee, you are going to be involved with the magic of coffee. So instant coffees, freeze dry coffees, macchiato, vanilla, amaretto, those coffees are for people that are expecting vanilla or amaretto, not real coffee.
So true. So well said.
Juan Pablo, what do you think about Mexican coffee, like Oaxaca and Veracruz?
I haven't tasted those coffees, Carolina, but I have been reading a lot, and I know that many growers are making a great work. Remember, they can learn how to grow coffee if they have the weather and the geographical location is correct. No doubt that Mexico is going to become a great cup of coffee. Remember, I'm a third generation of a family growing coffee. I grew up believing that the only coffee or the only great coffee was Colombian coffee. Nowadays, I have to accept that in Colombia, we grow great coffee and we have fantastic farms. We have a lot of good volume of coffee. But when you start visiting Guatemala, Panama, Honduras, Ethiopia, even Brazil, we will find that in all those countries, you can find great growers producing great coffee. So no doubt that Mexico is going to improve their qualities, and no doubt Mexico is going to start having nice coffees around the world.
So true. I'm leaving some questions here open for anybody who wants to chime in. Any questions, the microphones are open. I just want to say one quick thing. One, you know, when Carolina mentioned, brought you to this this forum, thank you so much, Carolina. I knew there was a way to kind of pair the magnificence of how we grow grapes and wine all over the world, and how we capture notes, and this wonderful little grape can do that so well. And I knew there was a way that beans did the same thing, if you want to call them, you know, beans. And you did exactly that. You followed this beautiful path of being able to capture the essence of your land, of everything that we have around us, and bring it to a cup of coffee every morning. I just want to applaud you for the incredible journey you've taken us, and the incredible journey you're still doing, and what you're doing for your country and for coffee as a whole. So I really have to applaud you and say thanks for everything you're doing. It's just tremendously inspiring, really inspiring.
Thank you, Rita. When you have this opportunities to share with person like you and all the others, guests, Carolina and the others, I believe that is a motivation for us. It's just saying, we are in the correct way. It's a matter of time, hard working, a lot of challenges, as you were saying. We start this new strategy like I believe it will be like 2002. We like started. My father, he was in charge of making renovations in the field in terms of the varieties that we were growing. But in reality, we start like giving shape to this San Alberto tradition in 2007. So you were saying that a lot of years, yes, 13 years working 24 hours a day for the whole year. It's quite heavy, but I believe that this is not only a work for me, this is sharing my family legacy. It's also helping and improving the coffee idea worldwide. I have been invited to different seminaries to just tell my history, just tell the idea of San Alberto that is recovering the pride of being a grower. When I visit France or I visit California or any other country that they produce any alcohol, when you were like eating a nice restaurant, suddenly someone started, no, he's the owner of the distillery, he's the owner of the winery. Here in Colombia, no one is going to say he's the owner of San Alberto, because we don't feel the pride of being the grower, because we have been heated with the prices, heated with the pressure of the roaster is the one controlling the business. So we have to adjust our businesses for him, the roaster, but he's not going to pay a fair price. So finally, I free myself to say, I am the same roaster. I'm the only carrying San Alberto. I can say anything I want because this is a private company. I don't have to be friendly with one guy or the other. I'm just a coffee grower that we want to share a new story about Colombian coffee, and of course, San Alberto in top of that history. And I believe that just being invited to this sessions, Birdy and Carolina, is a support for us, is accepting and saying you are a good example for the business. And of course, from now on, you have a new responsibilities to become into a good consumer and to help us spreading all this information with your family and friends, because we need the consumer. If the consumer is not going to understand all this, we're going to lose. So the invitation for all the other guests is coffee is not just coffee. Don't drink coffee for the caffeine or for the hot beverage. Drink coffee as a pleasure. Open the bag, smell it, read the history or the story of the farm, try to surf the web, and just enjoy a great cup of coffee, understanding from where, from who, and what to expect in your nose and your palate.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm so honored to have you here with us, Juan. And I want to ask, does anybody, Felipe in Portugal, late hours of the evening, you must have some questions. Anybody, before we let Juan go today, which breaks my heart because I want to have more classes with Juan, but does anybody have questions? Nobody? Felipe? No? Nobody?
I probably have one question.
Yeah.
Does the espresso have more caffeine that than the coffee that you did right now?
That's a very good question, Felipe. No, that's a misconfusion of the
Mhm.
consumer because the caffeine is going to be, I don't know if the word is correct in English, but it's like hydrosoluble. The longer the water is in contact with the powder,
Yeah.
the more caffeine you are going to extract. Espresso, 20, 30 seconds. The coffee press will be 4 or 5 minutes. And the cold brew, that is a new technique that is using cold water, is going to be up to 20, 24 hours. So the espresso in volume is going to be with a lot of caffeine, but it's not the most caffeinated beverage of the industry. The coffee press is going to be higher in caffeine, and the cold brew is going to be even higher. I have a short story that my brother, he's not a very high consumer in coffee daily, and he discovered that drinking this at the coffee shop was giving him like a headache. And he started drinking espresso, and he discovered that with the espresso, his body is not being affected with the caffeine. So you will see him drinking espresso at 6, 7 p.m. I'm not going to drink espresso at that time, but his body's going to accept it better. So if you want to drink some coffee to awake, my invitation will be coffee press. There will be more extraction time, more caffeine extracted.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Felipe.
Well, I have to tell you, I am not only a fan, I feel like I'm going to become your ambassador because of everything I learned. I was hanging in there for every note and every word you said. It was really tremendous experience for us today. I hope we will have you back here very soon. I know we will. We might be doing something together for the holidays, I think, it'll be cool.
Yes,
I hope.
for sure, Birdy. So it's very happy for me to share this cold night here in Bogota. And remember, coffee for Colombians is not only the reputation, the image, but it's also a key product for the economy. So more than happy to join these sessions anytime in the future, Birdy.
Juan, are you going to offer any Christmas sets or something like that?
Yes, Carolina, as I was saying during the presentation, we develop a new session that will be a little bit more structured than today because it's known as a coffee baptism. It will be like this box, so we can ship it worldwide. US market is very easy, so we can ship it by courier 3-4 days and will arrive. And inside the bag, you will have the glasses, you have the coffees that will taste, you will have a coffee diary, some brochures. We have some of the raw material. Let me see over here. So we have some of the fruits. So it's a complete set. It's known as the coffee baptism. This is what we know as the knowledge box. So the coffee baptism is going to be composed by the knowledge box plus a live session with your family, with your friends, or even with your company. And I'm sure that during this pandemic, Christmas will be a little bit different from the other years. We have to be a little bit closer with your family, with your closest family. So I believe that this can be a different way of spending Christmas celebration with your company, with your friends, and it will be 100% Colombian coffee experience.
I'm game. I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait.
Me too, me too.
I think we have everybody raising their hands, but I just want to say thank you for everybody who attended today. We had an incredible class with you, Juan, and I hope to see you again. Just so you know, coming up, we have 2 other great classes. One tomorrow with Mukiyasa. I don't know if you want to say a few things about them.
Pepe Moquillasa, the Pisco ambassador in the world. But Peruvian, is going to be a huge debate about if Pisco is Peruvian or Chilean or...
We're getting some emails already, by the way, on that. And the same thing we had with Sangani and other things as well. But anyway, and then we also have fermentation. I bet you a lot of you don't know very much about fermentation, or pickling as we call it, but it is absolutely fantastic how you can preserve certain things over winter, and actually it becomes a great health benefit for us. So keep in mind, we've got these 2 classes coming up, a lot more in the future. My gosh, I am so pleased to have had you guys here tonight. And with that, I say good night and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good
everybody.
night.
Good
Bye.
night. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.